So for those who don't know it, this is where to watch. It's one of our demo applications to demo search. It is built with Next.js. And basically, it allows you to search for movies. Say I were to look for Barbie, I would find a movie, and I'm able to find a streaming platform to go and watch that. So this is nice and all, but it only supports full text search, and we know it only can take us so far. So if I was looking for not a movie, but say a concept, I didn't remember the name of the movie, and I was looking for that movie about a green ogre, well, I wouldn't really be able to find Shrek. And fortunately for us, this is where semantic search can help, and this is where hybrid search does too. So let's see how we can achieve that with Meilisearch. First, how do we want to do this? As we said, we want to use a large language model to create embeddings of our documents so that we will be able to do semantic matching. And then on the other side, we want our front-end application to also use that same embedder to embed the search queries coming from your users so that Meilisearch can do its matching magic. So let's start by configuring the embedders. And for that, we will open our cloud dashboard. All right, so this is Meilisearch Cloud. This is where you land just after logging in on your team homepage. You might have several teams like me. You can select your project here. In my case, I would select the webinar demo. And here I'm on my project page. A project is more or less equivalent to a Meilisearch database. So you have the name, the URL, API keys, monitoring that Maria just showed you, and indexes. This is where I have my movies indexes, where I have the movies that we're searching against in the app I just shown. Let's go to this index settings. This is where you can configure everything index related, the attributes, ranking rules, you name it. And of course, our topic of the day, the embedders. I will delete that. Forgot to do it before the demo. So let's create an embedder. I can click here. And as Luis said, I'm able to select the provider I want to use for my embedder. In my case, I want OpenAI, so I will just go to the next page. After selecting my provider, I can configure the model I want to use to embed my documents. Let's use text embedding 3 small, the latest that OpenAI shipped. I need to give my OpenAI key here. So I will give this here. Why does Meilisearch need this? As Luis said, Meilisearch will handle the communication with the OpenAI API for us so that we don't have to handle creation of embeddings, storing them, retrying in case of errors and things like this. This is why we give our OpenAI API key here. Then I select the dimensions I want from my vectors, and I can move to the document template. I love this part because for me, this is where part of the magic happens. Basically, instead of letting OpenAI just make sense of every field I have in my JSON, in my documents, I can give it a prompt-like string so that it knows what the document contains. So in our case, documents are actually movies. So I can start with a template like a movie title, doc title, whose description start with doc overview. For those not familiar with it, this is the Liquid templating language. It's open source, it's great, it's built by Shopify. Basically, it allows you to incorporate words or data, coming from your documents inside the string. So say I consider that the release year of the movie is important. I can edit that and say a movie title, doc titled, released in doc release year, whose description starts with blah, blah, blah. All right, that looks good to me. Let's create the embedder. We can see that our embedders appear here. I only have one, so it's named default, and we have the settings we configured. Now, in reality, this might take a bit of time, depending on the size of the database, the actual large language model you're using to generate embeddings. But for the sake of this demo, I went ahead and did that already, so we don't have to wait. So with that in place, Meilisearch is now able to create embeddings automatically every time we add or update a document in our database. We're halfway there. Now we need our application. When they send queries, we need Meilisearch to understand that it needs to use the same default embedder to process those queries so that it can do the matching. In the case of our application, that configuration happens in the front end. Fortunately for us, this is just a one-line change in our code. So I will show you how to do it with JavaScript because this app is built with React, but it works the same with any of our SDKs. So I open my VS Code, and this is the part of my code where I'm basically creating my Meilisearch client. I'm initializing it here. I'm giving it a host, my API key, and some necessary configuration like the primary key, pagination information. To enable hybrid search for my queries, I simply need to include these few lines. I'm adding a hybrid object, and I'm saying I want to use the default embedder, and I want the semantic ratio to be 0.5. I'll come back to the semantic ratio later. But that is it. That's all we need to enable hybrid search in the client. And now every time we use this Meilisearch client to make request, Meilisearch will understand that it needs to use this embedder to process it. All right, so if I didn't lie, things should work now. Let's give it a try. So if you remember our query, that movie about a green ogre didn't bring any results when we had only full text search. Let's see if some semantic capabilities can help with that. You may have noticed this small handle over here, which allows me to configure the semantic ratio. Simply put, the semantic ratio allows you to configure how semantic the search should be. So 0 would be a traditional full text search, whereas 1 would be a vector search without any full text search capabilities. Everything in between is hybrid. So let's see if I've moved that to say 20%, then I can already see my movie that I was looking for, which is Shrek in my case, coming up in the top results. It's not very, very high though. Let's see what it would look like with 50% semantic. Now I can see that the Shrek movie is first, and I can actually see that a lot of other movies about ogres and green people also come up in the search results. So that's great. But maybe my description is not always going to be like this. Maybe sometimes I want to look for a movie like Star Wars. I want to look Star Wars, but I want to watch like the first movies that were released because for some reason the director didn't release them in order. So let's look for Star Wars first released movie. First movie. Of course. It didn't work as expected, but we can see that the Star Wars movies is coming up here. Maybe I should have typed, maybe I should increase the ratio. Star Wars first release. Yeah, doesn't want to work. Anyway, you get the idea. If I want to look for the first episode instead of Star Wars, this time it's going to work, right? Okay, this time it works. I can find the actual first episode, and it can also work, say, if I'm looking for a movie that I know the name in my own language, but I don't know the actual original name of the movie. Say I were to type in French for The Lord of the Rings, I would type Le Seigneur des Anneaux. Well, there's a little leap of faith to do here, especially if you don't speak French, but trust me, it means the same thing. And we can see actually that it appears in the search results here. We have The Lord of the Rings at the top of the search result. So it's not magic, but almost as close as I can get anyway. And we ourselves are already reaping the rewards of this magic. And can you guess where? In our docs, obviously, we have implemented hybrid search so that, say, if I were to search for artificial intelligence, yeah, I would be able to find the documentation pages related to vector search, whereas before there would have been no results here because no pages in our docs make explicit mention of artificial intelligence. So full text search wouldn't be able to give our users results. And now, instead of having nothing, our users are actually able to find, well, the docs they've been looking for. And I guess that's it for me and for this quick demo. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing it. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. I will be happy to answer them. And yeah, thank you for your attention.